Good evening. I'm here this evening with Marius, the pilot of India, who was the fastest pilot today on the first day of the Sailplane Grand Prix World Final. And I have a couple of questions for Marius to help us to understand how he did so well. Marius, we followed your flight with great interest. It was very entertaining for us. I hope it was for you. Yeah. And we noticed a couple of points in the flight which were interesting. And the first one is on the second leg, when you got quite low, approaching the third turning point. How did you feel at that time?
Actually I decided to fly more in the west and then from the second to the third turn point because the clouds looked more, stronger, than on the eastern side. But apparently I couldn't catch up some thermals, so I went lower and lower. And then at that point in time I did not feel too good. But I looked at the more Columbus. This mountain is not always working well, but today it had a lot of small cumulus and a big cumulus shortly before Lac de Serre-Poisson. And I flew in the ridge, maybe in 1600 meters, and it was working with 3 meters all the time in thermos. And so I could climb up to 2500, and for me then it was clear that I could turn around Lac de Serre-Poisson and directly go to the mountain Piolit and then continue in the ridge again. So it was working perfectly. A bit of luck, of course, always is also necessary, but more Columbus was the key today. Yeah.
But it's interesting for us to watch. You were the only pilot who went that way.
Yeah. As I said, I was motivated by the clouds. They looked much better in the west.
Do you think this is a tactic that we'll see again in the competition, where you go a different way to everybody else?
I somehow knew after the first turn bend that I was first, so I could not orient myself on the GER, and that's why it was my own decision. Yeah, so there was no use for me when I saw, because on the second leg, from the first to the second turn point, I felt okay that the clouds were not working properly, so I tried the different route. So to your question, if I have this situation again in the competition, I will do it again. Yeah, for sure.
It certainly looked interesting for us.
Yeah.
And when you came to the last or the third turning point, did you feel you had enough altitude to come home directly?
The ridge, the Piolit, had a lot of clouds on top, so I was still high enough, so I was very confident. But so I continued the ridge, climbing all the time with 1 meter, and at the end of the ridge I found 4.5 meters, and then I was at 2,800 meters, and at that time I was sure that I would make it home. Yeah.
Tell me, Marius, do you look at your flam sometimes and see who's behind you and how far behind they are?
I have to admit, I sometimes look, but actually in the competition it just gives you stress. Yeah, so I try to focus on the way forward. Yeah.
Because we were counting how many kilometers you were ahead at each turning point, and it was quite interesting. You pulled away 4 kilometers and 4 kilometers and 4 kilometers. So it was very good, very consistent.
So the only time when I saw the competitors was I met Marius at the Barcelonette. He was at the same altitude, and at the second turn point I could see Sebastian Cava, where I was roughly maybe 6 kilometers ahead. Yeah. But then I was also a bit distracted because a lot of gliders are currently also in this area, and sometimes also an 80-meter gliders, and I thought, oh shit, they're catching up. But I feel quite well because I had all the times when I was in a tricky situation, I would say I had always very good lifts.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Marius. We'll talk to Marius now, because Marius, it's your first world final of any sort, your first World Sailplane Grand Prix final. You've only flown one Sailplane Grand Prix. You've never flown at World Championships. You're young, new boy, and you flew so well. We were so impressed that you stayed there with the others. Did you feel really great about flying with these other guys?
Yeah, flying with the most experienced guys in the world is the greatest pleasure. I really like to compete, and I'm really enjoying the time here. I really like to fly, and it's really very interesting to be here. Yeah.
So we watched you. You had Sebastian Carr behind you. You had Gilles Navas with you, who's flown lots of world championships. You had Mario in front of you, and there you are, the new boy on the block. Did you feel any emotion about this at the time?
Not really, not until the last moments maybe, which on the final glide. But in general, I thought that I will fly my flight. I will do what I decided before seeing other guys. Of course, that distracts a lot sometimes, but as Mario said before, you have to think forward, so I try to do that.
Well, let's hope that your your performance today can continue for the rest of the week, but maybe another 100 meters for the final glide would be good.
Yeah, would be perfect, or a bit of a lift, extra lift on the the last kilometers.
And did you feel you were always a little short of altitude on the final glide, or did you start the glide feeling more confident?
I started quite confident because there were some clouds in front as well, and also close to the Cisteron, the gap of the Cisteron, but it didn't work. So eventually I saw that I have to stop somewhere, but I couldn't find some good lift, and then it turned out that there were more things than I expected at the last kilometers.
And one last question. You're flying a G29, which is an older glider than the other gliders that you were flying against. Did you feel at a disadvantage in this glider with the performance?
Not too noticeable, no. I don't think so. It's very hard because all the pilots are very good. They're climbing well, so it could be piloting, it could be small corrections, and I don't really feel that the difference that G29 is giving a big disadvantage here.
Good. Well, thanks very much, guys. We look forward to tomorrow. Looking forward to a great race again. Keep us entertained. Yeah, it's all great fun, and I'm sure the followers are looking forward to these moments of drama that you provide for us. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
And good night.